Hey guys, Malu here, and welcome back to another video. It's been a long time, but this is going to be a new type of video series. Hopefully I'll get around to this and the what ifs and stuff like that soon. But this is going to be a series called Late Night Thoughts. Basically, any late night thoughts that I have about, well, anything to do with Destiny. I've had a few so far. This one is going to be talking kind of about how Guardian games could have been, and in my opinion would have been a lot better. So I guess first things first, time to talk about what we have right now. So what we got now is with Eva Levante in the tower. She's just kind of hanging out, doing her own thing, and she's got a whole slew of bounties. She's got medals, but those are pretty much bounties on crack. So, yeah. And she's got a lot of those. Plus, you gotta do a lot of bounties. And if you look at the triumphs, oh boy, there is a lot going on there. And you kind of need to do the triumphs to get a machine gun. Which, to be honest, the triumphs aren't that hard to get if you're playing one character almost every day. But it's still pretty damn lengthy. So, to get around that, we can go with a different kind of system where it's more based off of activity completions. So moving away from bounties and going to activity completions, such as, you know, the basic activities like strikes, crucible, gambit. I guess we could go forges because Bungo wants to bring back forges. And then the more important ones of trials, raids, and dungeons. Those are the end game that you want to encourage players to go after and play. And I guess we could also lump in patrols, but in my late night thoughts the other night I kinda didn't even think about it. Anyways, the key point of Guardian games is to earn points for your class. The way that this structure would work in a Guardian game style thing is where you'd get your points for your class at the end of whatever activity, so strikes, crucible, trials, gambit, you name it. However, with raids and dungeons, since they have multiple encounters, multiple loot drops, you would get points for completing encounters and completing the entire raid. Obviously more for completing the entire thing, and a little less for completing each individual encounter. Same thing with trials, there's each individual match, not counting the rounds inside the match, so each match, and then you have flawless as the end goal for the completion. So there'd be a different tier structure for that as well, with it heavily weighted on going flawless. The way that you can incentivize players each week to hop on and play some activities, it doesn't really matter what, is just have a first time bonus. So you get a significant increase to the amount of points for your class by completing an activity for that week. And it goes for each activity will have a first completion, so it's not like, oh, just run this as your first thing that week and make it a checklist. Bam, you got that done, then do whatever else. Yeah, don't do that. So you have each one has its own first for that week. More points would be awarded for the first completion or clear, depending on however the activity is like set up for that week. Additional completions after the first would still award points, but at a fixed reduced amount. Meaning that the reduction in points stay the same no matter how many times you run that activity for that week. That pretty much just kind of sums up, don't do the whole XP throttling kind of thing that we saw way back. Don't have that. Now right here, I'm going to be putting up a chart on screen, and that is pretty much the point spread that I could think of, and I actually put a lot of thought into this. So you have strikes, crucible, and gambit all at the same rate. Now you can complete strikes a little faster, and you can kind of coerce ways to get crucible matches to go faster. Same thing with gambit. But they're roughly around the same time frame for completions. So you can have them be the same. Don't favor one over the other. Then you have 3-stack Nightfalls. They can fall under some kind of Nightfall the Ordeal. I'd probably go around Legend status. even though that you can make it as hard and as easy as you want. I'd probably go around Legend, or what's the other one? Heroic, whatever it's called. Just not the baby one. So you can see on screen kind of how it's laid out. And then Grandmaster is like the epitome of everything that you should be doing in strikes. So that awards the most points possible for that. However, regular Nightfall ordeals and the Grandmaster are tied under the same first category kind of thing. And you'll kind of see that there's L's in here, and that's just pretty much, if you lose, you get less of an amount for the first completion. It doesn't matter for your first completion if you win a match or you lose a match. And it has an L for strikes and PvE stuff, I'll get to that in a sec. But pretty much, it's a gamble. You better make sure that you win your first one, because you'll get the most points out of that. This is to represent your class, so things should be dependent on how you do. Maybe not you individually if you're in a team setting, but your team, your class as a whole, will be affected by how well you do. So Gambit, Trials, Crucible, anything where it's a match against other players kind of thing, you have the losses due to the match saying you were defeated, pretty much. And that's pretty self-explanatory. You lose, you get less points. You win, you get more. Now for strikes and forges I have here, those are a little more tricky. I'd say go time-based, so you need to get there within a reasonable amount of time to beat it. Now this is a little tricky, because you don't want to make it where everyone and their grandma can get it, because then there's no point in really making this a kind of pressured, I want to do better, I need to do better to get more points. So it needs to be at a happy medium. I would say, personally, since, Bungie has the stats for how fast things get completed and all that, see what the average is, and then make it a little faster than that. Make it where the player base needs to work and get better to go faster and kill more. If they want to kill, or they could just run by everything and call it good. To be honest, that's what they'd probably do with it being time-based. But hey, it's going somewhere that's not, oh, let's take 5 years to complete a strike. And as you guys can kind of see, the point spread is leaning more toward endgame, so dungeons, trials, raids, Grandmaster Nightfall. Those are pretty much the end game of the game. You know what I mean. So, a lot of players haven't experienced raids. A lot of players haven't experienced dungeons. A lot of players haven't actually done trials. And the ones that have either regretted it, or, well, all of them have regretted it, let's be honest. But it favors endgame content. And it really should, because not all players will be able to go in due to power level, and I'll talk about that another time. But favor endgame, and players will be more inclined to go do the endgame, especially if you make the rewards good, and I'll talk about rewards a little later. So, let's go with trials. So you have your wins, you have your losses, and as you can see, the first for the loss gives you nothing. But if you win, then you get 13 points, and that's not just for the first trials win, because you got 7 wins to make it to flawless. So for each number on the card, even if you have losses, you get your win bonus. I think that would be fair. That incentivizes and gives purpose to actually going through to make it to 7, at least on your first time going through. And hey, if you can make it to 7 wins, even with 2 losses on your card, that's pretty damn good. You should probably try to go for flawless. Because as you can see, flawless is a massive increase. 50 points for your first flawless that week, and an extra 25. So it highly incentivizes going for flawless, on opposed to just going up to 3, back down, up to 3, back down, up to 3, yada yada yada, that people have been doing. Then you go to raids. Not all raids are the same length with encounters. Majority of them have 3, maybe 4, and the highest I believe is Last Wish with 6, encounters, because you'd count Riven and you'd count Queen's Walk for the chest. At least I would, because Riven is an encounter all on its own. So you'd have 10 points per encounter completion after your first, and this would go for each individual raid. So each time you complete an encounter for that raid, you get the first bonus. But after you complete that raid, if you want to go back through, because it's like Scourge of the Past, that's easy, we can just grind that out, then you get 10 points instead of 30 per encounter completion. But if you go from beginning to end, then you get the completion bonus. Would be the best way to go about it. You give the encounter stuff, so if people checkpoint to the final boss, they can't just keep getting the completion bonus. They need to literally go through the entire raid if they want the completion bonus. And I'd just say leave it as a fixed thing, so every raid gives the same amount. So people can choose between going through like Last Wish, where it's the air quote longest raid, or going through like Eater of Worlds, where it's not that hard, but it isn't entirely fast because there's a whole bunch of stuff to do in between. Going all the way to like Scourge of the Past, where it is a pretty damn fast raid if you ask me. So it's kind of up to how they want to do it. I say each encounter completed has its own bonus, and then if you go from start to finish, the completion bonus. So anyways, going back to the little L's there that you see on the chart, you notice how there's none for dungeons and raids. Because what this would be incentivizing is, instead of running with your own team, if you want your class to do well, go to LFG and pick whatever class you want, to be honest, or you could just teach everybody, and get more people into the raids, because those are incentivizing going through and getting more points. So interesting. But incentivize endgame content. And if you look at Trials in comparison to Crucible, you can see that it's incentivized to run Trials because there's more points in each match. And now if we flip over to a second chart, and then you can bring patrols in for 1 point. Yeah, don't do Lost Sectors. I think you've learned this by now. Don't bring Lost Sectors into this, or people will just hate you forever, Bungo, because they're going to be Lost Sector farming. But if you do bring them in, then make them at like a -3, okay? Just kidding, that's a bit harsh. So probably a 1 point, same thing with patrols. All patrols, 1 point. All Lost Sectors, since they're stupid easy, 1 point. And then everything else from the original chart that I had that did not have patrols and Lost Sectors, just kind of make them multiplied by 5, and then I guess public events can throw them in there with like a 2 for a normal and 4 for a heroic. Because you can blast through those events super fast. And I don't care too much about, public event grinding, because that gets tedious as well. Push end game content, okay? That's the primary purpose of this, alright? Okay, glad we could talk. So anyways, the reason why I'm pushing end game, but still having the other activities still be there, is because not everyone's going to want to run end game content. Some people just want to hop on and completely ignore other people. They just want to play it like it's a solo game. And you know what? I would say more power to them, but that's honestly not. But if they want to do that, that's their time, that's what they want to do, they can do it. Me personally, I see endgame as like the true purpose of Destiny. Now, if we could run story missions, like off on the fly like D1, I'll talk about that inside a what if video at some point, hopefully sometime soon. Then we'd add those in too, because people would want to run story missions, as opposed to just strikes. With all of these activities available to the players to earn points, this means that every player should be able to contribute as much and as little as they want to. Which is pretty damn good, because as of right now, players don't want to bounty grind or hardcore bounty grind with the medals. I mean, I barely wanted to, just enough to get the frickin' stuff done after the 3 weeks, goddamn. And, yeah. So this would allow people to just play the game as they want, and they'd get points for their class. Another good thing would be a leaderboard, better than what we have now, that actually show points of how much people actually did. I don't know if you could do that in-game, because, well, we see the Titans are going off the rails, and I don't know if we can see the other classes, or if you just chose, hey, we're just gonna show Titans. But anyways, now all joking aside, should be able to show leaderboards. With that, you should be able to show exactly how many points, and it would be in probably millions or trillions of points with how large the numbers are. And you can go ahead and get those going so people can see, oh wow, Hunters did like nothing in comparison. Jeez, I wonder if there's some trickery going on. I wonder how many points we're actually getting. Like almost nothing. On the flip side, you could see how many Titans have just like obliterated the game. So if we look back at the chart, you guys can obviously see the firsts, and I've been talking about that a lot throughout this little video here. Those would be per account. So it doesn't matter what character you're on, the first applies to that character that you're on. So if you want to get points for your Titan, you need to hop on your Titan first for that week, run through the activities, and you'll get points. If you don't care about the event and you're just wanting to play the game, you can ignore it and hop on whatever character you want. So, one first per week per account, for whatever activity. And now that we've talked about that for a little bit, it's a little more complicated because you don't want it to just be any random thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put up some text on screen and talk about it at the same time because I'm fairly sure I won't say the exact same thing. So, we got strikes coming up first because that's first on the little chart there. They have to be inside the strike playlist because if you go with it going through the selectable strikes, then people can just load up the Lake of Shadows and run it in sub 6 minutes, potentially getting it down to 5 minutes or faster. I don't know how fast it can go. My fastest is like 5:30. So it's fast. And with it getting the same amount of points as Crucible, which run about 7 to 10 minutes, because 10-minute max, yeah, you're going to outstrip Crucible players, which is not ideal because then that would force them out of what they want to do and into the Crucible if they want the stuff. Not good. And then the L is, of course, like I said before, it's based off of time and strikes, and it needs to be a little faster than the average time completion for that strike. Then you get to Nightfall, the Ordeal. The points are dependent on difficulty. So the higher the difficulty, the more points. The lower the difficulty, the lower the points. That needs to be a thing, or people are just gonna slap it into the lowest difficulty and just blast them out for a lot of points. So going from basic bitch to uber master. And of course the L is with the same kind of system, so based off time, average time for completion on that strike with that difficulty, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And then Grandmaster Nightfalls. Pretty much the same thing as Ordeals, scales to whatever, but Grandmaster, since it's super high up, it's at its own new tier, and I'm not sure how to score that one for the L, but average time, a little faster, probably. Or you could just go with the Ordeals of being, when you hit 0 for your score modifier, that's when you hit the L. Granted, recently I've noticed that you're losing points and your modifier slowly goes down, and yeah, it's just weird in my opinion. But that would be one example of it, on opposed to, oh, just find the average, make it a little faster. Even though I think that would be a good thing. Also, tell us the times, so the community doesn't have to be like, oh, what is it? So, I know I talked a little about Crucible, how the first is the first game, and then losses are, as, when you lose the match. But seeing how there's so many more activities than there is Crucible, go off game modes for Crucible. So you have Control, Classic Mix, you have Competitive, and the rotating game modes. You have Rumble. Go ahead and make those all into firsts. Now, Crucible players will be inclined to have to hit all of them, but they don't have to, because they have a lot just in their own categories. So you can have it go and have that. Yeah, speech. Then we come up to Gambit. I was thinking for this, since I personally do not like Gambit all that much, just having it be 1. Reason for that is if it's just going to be based off game modes instead of kills, like kills go normal Gambit, period. You'll get the most amount of kills there. If you're going for speed, go Gambit Prime. That's the fastest way to complete Gambit matches. So if it's based off that, don't force people to do something that they don't really need to, so pick one and you get a first out of that. Forges, same kind of thing as strikes, except each forge gets its own first. So a first for the Volunder, first for the Baguzia, first for the Izanami, and first for the Gofanon Forge. So they all get their own firsts, which means 4 days of, doing forges. But you only need to do 1 a day, which is not that bad, in my opinion. Same thing for strikes with the L, just kind of based off the average time and then make it a little faster. Force people to have to move quicker than, slug. Now we get to dungeons. So, no L's anymore on the remaining ones of dungeons, trials, flawless, and raids. But each dungeon should have its own first completions and first encounter completions. So you have the Shattered Throne and the Pit of Heresy. Both of those would have their encounter completions, so whenever you get a drop in there, you get your points. And then when you complete it, you also get points. This is also the same way as I described raids before, where you have the encounter completions, and to stop people from doing the checkpoint thing, so you get the final boss and just checkpoint it out and do the completions like that, you need to go all the way through. Now, unfortunately, this also cuts out the whole, if you get kicked to orbit, you're kind of gypped, but you still get points for completing the stuff, so might as well just run it back through. Or you could just go without getting the overall completion, which I think would be a little sad. Moving on to trials. So like I said before, your card has 7 win slots. Each win slot counts as a first. So once you make it to 7, you can either reset or just keep kind of going for basic points. Flawless. Kind of self-explanatory. Go flawless, you get points. So when you hit 7 with no losses, you get the match win as well as the flawless bonus. So you get a whole bunch of stuff, which is nice. Really, really nice. And it would apply without you needing to go to the lighthouse. So you get like the match completion inside the match at the end when you get your loot. And then when you hit orbit and you are granted access to the lighthouse, that's when you get the flawless bonus. Because breaking stride and having to go to the lighthouse does not seem like a good idea to me. At all. Because it's just taking people away from what they want to do. Now, getting to raids, the final, nittier, grittier thing is just like the dungeons, each raid, so all the Leviathan raids, so Levy, Eater, Spire, and Crown, those are all their own completions. Then you have Scourge and Garden. Those are their own completions, own raids, obviously. So you'd be able to run through each and every single raid, getting points. Of course, having the encounter stuff and the completion thing, as I've been talking about, so that all works the same as I've been talking, that's covered. Alright, now pretty much in conclusion, before I get to the rewards, the point spread favors endgame and incentivizes players to play the endgame content. So if the players, if inclined for the rewards, would learn the endgame content, which would also give them loot from the encounters, get more people involved, and give more opportunities for the community to come together, or totally fall apart. Sherpas would also be a thing again, because I have not heard, and I haven't really been listening for like Sherpa people. That would also come in big if this event came around and people wanted to do endgame content. Like, oh my god, it would grow the community. So now, getting to the rewards. Going based off the system we have here, so each day you'd get a package and it would be sent to your postmaster, regardless if you played or not during the event. Because, you know, you're still a part of the Destiny community. So, it would go straight to your postmaster and it would stack. So you have 4 types of packages. You have platinum tier, you have gold tier, silver, and bronze tiers. Starting from the bottom, we got bronze. This package is a random weapon from the event, and yes, this would have an entirely new sweep of weapons with a whole bunch of different perks. So, 1 weapon for each archetype and each weapon type. Or at least just each weapon type. That would be enough. Each weapon type. Yeah, let's just go with that because it's easier. I mean, it'd be nice if there's one for each weapon type and archetype in that weapon. So, if that could be a thing, that'd be awesome. Now on to silver. You get the same reward as bronze, so random weapon, and in addition to a random armor piece. This is kind of like the escalation protocol where you get 1 piece and you won't get a duplicate until you get them all. Once you get them all, it kind of doesn't matter because you got them all. And it only goes for that class that picked it up. Next is gold, so same as silver, so you're getting a random weapon and random armor piece in addition to a universal ornament. So this means that there would be a whole set of weapons, every single weapon type, as well as a whole new armor set, and, get this, universal ornament. Now I know Bungo's talking about making transmog a thing. I'd still say it'd be pretty cool to have the armor and ornament. So you have 2 kind of things, so variants of whatever you have. That would be awesome. And if they made it where both sets could play off each other, that would be cool. Now, getting to the final platinum tier. So this one would only be awarded to the class that gets the most golds in that week. And it's a pretty damn special one. So, with it, you have the same thing as gold, so you get a random armor piece, random weapon, and a universal ornament if you don't already have it. But this one's fancy because it also gives you the option to choose a weapon and an armor piece of your choice. With, here's the dinger, to make it even better, you can actually select perks and stats for the stuff. Not all of them. You kind of leave the traits be, which are the main meat and butter of it, or meat and gravy, or whatever, however you want to say that. So, weapon selection, you can choose everything except for the traits. So you can choose the barrel, the scope, or sight, you can choose the magazine, you can choose the masterwork, you just can't choose the traits. I think that makes it fair, so pretty much the only thing is you need to work on getting the perks that you want. You're not shafted by RNG so much. It's only a 1 in however many perk combinations there are, which is a whole lot less than if you needed the barrel, masterwork, and scope all in there. So, armor selection now. You're able to pick whatever stat spread you want, with the armor piece going up to 30 per whatever stat, so like 30 recovery on a single piece. The caveat is it only goes up to a max of 65, which I say is not that hard now to get, so power creep is slowly going, but this would make it where people could make their own builds, 1 piece at a time. And then if they don't get a whole lot of pieces that they can make themselves, then they have the opportunity to complement their perfectly built armor stuff with whatever else is out there that they find. In addition to all this stuff, this armor would be able to equip any seasonal mod ever. I don't know how hard that would be, it doesn't seem that hard to me, it'd just be a mess inside the UI, which I don't think would be all that bad. Just give the mods like the little seasonal symbol thing and call it good, because that would help organize it just a little bit more, or at least visually organize it. So, once you select all the perks and the combinations and the weapons that you want, you don't just like claim the package. So the way that the package would look is you hover over it, it says inspect or details. There's no claim button like the others. So you press details, pops up with everything. Once you go at least into one piece of armor or one weapon and back out, then it'll say that you can either go into details or you can claim it. And you'd need to claim one weapon and one armor piece for the package to go away. So you could just go with one weapon and that's it, and still have the package there. It would just have the other weapons or all the weapons grayed out because you can't select anymore from that package. It would also make it where it doesn't stack because, you know, it wouldn't be able to stack. Final little bit before I get into the extra bits that I thought of after a whole lot of stuff. So, this event would be a season-long or a year-long event. I'm thinking like the Age of Triumphs from D1. Kind of super long event, not super like hard to grind for, but it gives you a shite load of loot. Hopefully not at the end of the game is when the event's gonna end, because that would be pretty useless and not that helpful, in my opinion. So something similar to that style where it's a super long event thing that gets the entire community working for it, but there also needs to be a huge thing for whoever wins. I have not thought of that yet, but it would need to be big, like an entire new subclass kind of thing. I mean, that may be a little broken, but that would be like the incentive to, hey, the entire community needs to get behind this. And could just go with, oh, whoever wins will get a brand new subclass, and only them, with later on, of course, the others following. But that class getting the majority of it. And hell, you can make it where through 1/3 of the event, whoever's in the lead gets the stuff, and then after that you have the first third of the event up on a leaderboard where it doesn't change, and then you have the second third, and then people go through, they win that, bam, and then last third, people go through, they win it, bam. Of course, for the winners of the first, or if they win both first and second quarters or whatever, it would need to be some other reward, which would honestly be like, what the hell? Or you could just have it run the entire event and be like, oh hey, so this is the super for this class, the next people who will get it will be the silver place, and then the last will be, you know, the bronze tier. And just go like that. So now, a little bit extra, since, you know, Bungo loves their triumphs and locking things behind triumphs, I decided to make a few of my own, based off of activities and not so much, oh, get these many kills, oh, complete this many Uber bounties. I'm looking at you, medals. So we got triumphs. Last bit, I swear. So, I'm just going to kind of go through the name and kind of what they are. I'm going to also throw them up on screen. I'm not sure if I'm going to change the text or anything, so let's just get into it. So you got new triumphs. As triumphs are, they would be a one and done kind of thing. So whichever class completes it gets the points. And if I didn't already mention it, these would also give class points. So whichever class you press claim on the triumph for would get the points. So you could do them on like your Titan and then shift over to your Hunter and do it. Or be on your Hunter and shift over to your Titan because your Titan's your main and you want to get the points for your main because that gets the subclass and blah de blah de blah. So, going off first, we got the Vanguard's Helper, which is complete every single Vanguard strike during the event. And it doesn't have to be inside the playlist. Actually, it'd be preferred if it didn't really have to be in the playlist, but it could be. Next is Crucible's Veteran. Complete a match in every Crucible game mode, rotating and non-rotating. Then we have competitive much, which is reach fabled in the competitive playlist. And then pretty self-explanatory one here, legend. Reach legend in the competitive playlist. Due diligence. Complete one of each patrol in each destination. So that is a lot of patrols. It doesn't have to be each individual area on a planet, just full destination like European Dead Zone, EDZ. Well, that's European Dead Zone. What the hell am I doing talking at 3 in the morning? But like Dreaming City, the Moon, EDZ, Mars. Complete one of each patrol on each destination. And then we have what's next? Complete every dungeon and raid encounters and every strike. Yeah, what's next after that? Then we have City's Savior, and this is where we get to a little better stuff, in my opinion. The what's next is like, oh my god, I completed everything kind of thing, because Triumph is, yeah. So City's Savior. Complete every encounter in Scourge of the Past raid, and get the Outbreak Perfected, or Perfected, yeah, it's Perfected. And complete the Heroic 0 Hour mission. Then we have Callus's Chosen, which is complete every encounter in the Leviathan, Eater of Worlds, Spire of Stars, and Crown of Sorrows raid, as well as every encounter in the Menagerie, and obtain the Bad Juju. And hell, might as well just have it be Run the Bad Juju mission, because it's a pretty darn easy one, it ain't timed, and yeah, it wouldn't be that hard. Then we have Forge Away. Complete every forge. Pretty self-explanatory. Then we have Creeping Dark. Complete every encounter in Garden of Salvation, Last Wish, Shattered Throne, Pit of Heresy. Get the Whisper of the Worm. If you already have it, that step's complete. And complete the Heroic Whisper mission. Oh, we got a couple more, I think. So we have Forge Through Trials. Get 7 wins on a single card. Not too hard, you can get that with 2 losses on the card and still be going. Then we have Flaws Burned Away. Go flawless in Trials. Now, I will say, Flaws Burned Away, if for completions to count on the card, this would be like a better thing for it. Make it where you actually need to get a single kill. Because I know that'll piss off a whole lot of the, we'll take you flawless ghost lobby stuff that Bungo can't really track too much. But make it where if you don't have a kill inside the lobby, like anyone inside the lobby, then it won't count for a win or loss. It'll just be a no match. Because sometimes teams do just completely disconnect or people want to just leave. Just make it where it's a no match. It's just you need to go back into matchmaking. That I think would be the best thing for it. Because that would actually get people going in and playing, and I'm talking too much, I'm too tired, don't listen to me. Actually listen to me. And finally, frickin' final things, I'm at the bottom of my notes page. So, each Triumph would have a checkbox telling the player of what they have and have not done, so they don't have to try and keep track on their own. The game just has this little white outlined box, and it puts a green mark in the spot that is good. That would be the best way to do it, in my opinion. Now, finally, 0 Hour and the Whisper missions. You don't have to do the basic version if you already have the weapon itself. Bad Juju, it's easy enough, just kind of go through and do that mission again. Plus, it gets people to actually go in for another time. And that's pretty much it. I've been talking for way too long, but expect to see more late night thoughts, because I have several huge ideas that I've worked on and lost notes on because it's just so big. So hopefully I can get some of those done, and I will hopefully be talking again soon. So if you have stuck with me this long, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I mean, I don't really say it too much, or I think I don't. I mean, it's been so long since I've done a video thing, so maybe maybe I have. But go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like this idea, hit that like button and share it, because yeah, I'm a small content creator, so I don't really get seen. Share it with who you think would be able to get this to Bungie the best, in my opinion. That would probably be the best way to go. And without further ado, I will catch you guys hopefully soon, and peace out.